Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to rank all of my Nomad palettes. So I'm sure you guys have been able to tell Nomad is one of my favorite brands, and I currently have 7 palettes from them, and I absolutely love all of these. I think they always do such a nice job with their color stories, their theming, their packaging, their formula, just everything about these palettes is just so well done and thought out in my opinion, and I seriously love every single one of these, so I thought it would be fun to go through them and rank them. I do not dislike any of these palettes, I just want to put it out there, but it was kind of more based on color story, how much I'm using these palettes on a day-to-day basis, but again, I love all of these and I'm so excited to have these. So like I said, I have 7 palettes here to rank for you all. I am so excited, but before we jump into the video, if you would consider subscribing, I would really appreciate it. My goal is to get to 500 subscribers by the end of September, so if you are willing, I would be so thankful, and with that, we can jump right into the video. So coming in at number 7, we have the Royal Europe palette. So this packaging is super cool, and again, I love the theming. The only reason this one is ranking the lowest is just because this color story is a little bit out of my comfort zone. These are very dark jewel tone colors. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. I love playing with this palette, especially for like my Instagram or my YouTube. It's just not necessarily an everyday palette for me. And I just use the other ones from Nomad a little bit more than this one, but it is still gorgeous. The formula is super nice. I really enjoy it. It's a little outside of my comfort zone, but it is super fun to play with. Next up at number 6, we have the America's Parks palette. So this is actually the first Nomad palette that I ever purchased. This is kind of what made me fall in love with them as a brand to begin with. I had just really loved the theming of this. I love the national parks, so the packaging of this really caught my eye, and then the color story is super pretty. I am just not as drawn to this one as the other ones that they have come out with since then. I think it's super pretty, and there's nothing in this that I don't like. I just tend to gravitate towards the other color stories more than this one. This one is probably one of my least reached for, but it is still super pretty and I am still happy to have it in my collection. I just, again, like the other ones a little bit more. Alright, next up at number 5, this one kind of hurts a little bit, but I'm going to give it to my Keys Beachy and Peachy palette. Out of all of the themes of these, this one is probably my absolute favorite. I mentioned this with my first impressions, but the Florida Keys are probably the place I have visited the most outside of like my hometown, my home state. I absolutely love the Keys. I just have so many good memories there, so I did not even care what the color story of this one was going to be. I knew I was going to be picking it up just because of the destination of it. I do think the color story is really pretty. I will say I am more of a fan of the 15 pan palettes compared to the 18 pans. Just even getting those 3 extra shades I feel like is a lot. I do think this one is super pretty. Honestly, I feel like I would have liked if they had just done like a 9 pan of this little side over here. I love what this half looks like. This half is a little bit more outside of my comfort zone with the blues. Blue is not an everyday color for me. I think it's super pretty. I think it's fun to play with, but it is not going to be a color that I am necessarily reaching for every day, especially brighter blues like these ones. But again, this one is super fun to play with, and I love the theming of it. So I do really, really love this palette. Again, I just like the color stories of the other ones a little bit more. Alright, next up at number 4, we are going to give it to the other 18 pan palette I have from them. So this is the Ghost Town palette. They just brought this one back for probably, I think, a limited time, but this one is so much fun. I think the color story of this one is so pretty. It's just a nice, cool toned, spooky color story. I really enjoy it. Again, I don't really have anything bad to say about this palette. It, at this point, was just kind of a matter of preference, what I'm reaching for the most, and the other three just ranked above this one. But I do still think this one is super pretty. I do like all of the shades in here, but again, similar thoughts to the Keys palette. I just prefer the 15 pan palettes from them. That is just honestly personal preference for me, but as far as the color story and the formula and the theming, this one is really, really good. Alright, next up at number 3, we have the Okavango Safari palette. I was so happy when I saw the color story of this one. I love a good neutral palette, and this one has the neutrals, the pops of green, and it is just really right up my alley. Especially when I bought this palette, I was so into green eyeshadow. I still really love it. I just think the other two color stories are a little more interesting. This one is obviously quite neutral, but I do love a good staple neutral palette, and this one is neutral with some excitement to it, so I really enjoy it. Again, their formula is great. I love the theming, and yeah, everything about this palette I just really like. Again, I don't really have anything bad to say about these palettes. It just kind of, this is just kind of where it fell. Alright, next up at number 2 is their newest release. So this is the Fuji 5 Lakes palette, and I have been obsessed with this palette since I got it. I think this packaging is probably my favorite that they've done so far. It just looks like a painting. I think it's gorgeous. And then the color story is just super fun. I feel like it is very versatile, and I have been able to create just a bunch of looks. I still have more looks in mind to create. So I have just been loving this palette. This one is still new to me, so it does have that excitement around it as well. But I just think they did a really nice job with this palette, from the color story to the formula to the packaging. Just everything about this is so pretty, so fun, and I am just so inspired when I look into this palette. Alright, then number 1 is going to go to my Province palette. I wasn't sure if this one was going to stay at number 1, but looking at all of them and comparing them, I think this one is still my favorite Nomad palette. I love the color story of this one. I say this every time I talk about this palette, but this one feels really unique within my collection. I just think the combination that they did here was so pretty, and again, I love this palette. I love the theming, just everything about it. This one is broken down really easily if you just want to go with the columns to do some more monochromatic looks or combine the different shades within this palette. You just get so many options of color combos and looks, and this is one that just continues to inspire me, and I just really, really enjoy this one. So those are all 7 of my Nomad palettes ranked. Let me know what you guys thought. Do you have Nomad palettes? Which one is your favorite? If you couldn't tell, I am just a huge Nomad fan, and I am so excited to continue to see what they come out with. I love each of these palettes. Even though I did rank them and have a least favorite today, none of these are bad palettes by any means, and I am so happy that I have each of these in my collection. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. And with all of that said, I will see you in my next video. Bye!